Alright, so the first thing we're going to do, let's say we being you, you guys out there, what we need to do is we need to first, I've already got it done, but we're going to, if you haven't done this already, just go to New, and then you go to Drawing, and you can pick one of your templates. I chose just Autocad. We're just going to pick that one, just a basic one, then you hit click open, and then you'll be left with this right here. The first thing we're going to do before we do all this is, because it's set into a different, the units are different, so not trying to go out of order, but this is just the first one we need to do, so that if you wanted to type in something, say 12 feet, it wouldn't work right now. See, I'm just going to draw one real quick. So if we go to say 12 feet, if you look into the command line right here, I'm just going to draw it there. It's not going to work. Even when I hit enter or return, it doesn't want to do it. So what we need to do is type in U for units, U, enter. Oh man, not U, units, UNITS. Alright, see right here where it says decimal, change that to architectural. And your precision, you can make that whatever you want to be, and then now you can be okay. So for instance, if you draw a line now 12 feet, you zoom out, and now it recognizes. Before, you would have had to have typed in 144 inches is 12 feet. So that would be our first one, would be units, and you have to type the whole word out, to UNITS. But so the next thing we need to do, since we really haven't gotten started doing anything, good practice is to go ahead and save as. You know, you can change it and save it wherever you want to do that, wherever you put your stuff. I'm not going to do it here just for the sake of, I don't really need to save this, but you guys feel free to save this, that way you can kind of go back to it. And another way to save would be Q, S-A-V-E, Q save. And I'm going to be, if you look at your keyboard, you got QWERTY, Q-W-E-R-T-Y-U-I, blah, 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 blah. We're going to be going through the list for the most part, just because that's just how I did my list, looking at each letter. But so if you're curious as to, you know, what is the pattern I'm going off of, I just went through the keyboard there. But so that one would be Q for Q save. That's another way of doing it, of saving your drawing. That's an easy one. And now I'm going to skip over many commands, but like I said earlier, this right here is going to get you up and running. So for you guys looking to get a job in manufacturing, you know, detailing out some steel, or drawing up some house plans, or whatever it is you're trying to draw, cabinetry, for whoever, this will get you going, and you can actually say, I know how to draw in CAD, because there's going to be many people that don't know a large majority of these commands. You know, most people just know line, erase, trim, you know, rectangle, circle. Those are just the basic ones. I know these will get you a little bit deeper into that, and how to edit your commands a little bit better, how to work a little bit faster, improve your workflow, and the faster you are, the more valuable you are in CAD. So keep that in mind. You know, yeah, you can draw with your icons, and you can do this and you can do that, but if you're faster, you put out more work. You're more valuable. So that's my argument to anybody that's a icon person. So not that there's much of an argument, because, you know, to each his own, and if you can do it better that way, you know, more power to you. Anyway, on that tangent, alright, so the next one we're going to go over is erase. So let me give you something to erase here. I'm just going to draw a line real quick, and that was L for line. We'll go back to that in a little while. So if you wanted to erase something, and anytime to clear the the command line here, we're gonna, I hit escape like 10 times, or 10, like 2 or 3 really, and that clears it. Make sure you're not in the middle of a command. So these, I always kind of keep my pinky or my ring finger on my left hand kind of hovering over that at any given point. So we're going to erase this line. Enter. You're going to left click, drag down, and right click. Simple as that. Now you can, I'm going to draw a line again. We want to erase. You can go this way. You notice the box was a different color. It depends if you're going left to right, right to left. If you go left to right, you draw that box over it. So if you draw the box from left to right, or right to left, you're going to get that dotted green box. All you have to do is, the box just has to touch the object. But if it go left to right, then the box has to completely encompass the object that you're trying to erase. That's relatively confusing at first, but you'll get used to it, and then it'll become second nature to you. So we can erase that, and there you go. Also, several ways of solidifying your command, or entering it, or whatever you want to call it. You can choose the right click if you have your right click customization set up in your options, and that's, I'll try to go over that in another video. But if you just go into your options menu, and you can mess around with it, and you can go to right click customization and choose the right click to be enter. So you got spacebar, enter, and right click, all equal. They all equal enter. Also, your middle mouse button is your in out zoom, like that. And if you have a more modern mouse, I guess most of them have them nowadays, the middle mouse wheel, if you depress or press on it and hold it and then move the mouse, you can pan around. I know some people like use the P button for pan. You can do that. I know that. I guess if you like to do that, then that's fine. But it much quicker if you can utilize your mouse without having to lift your hand to do something. It's all about efficiency. It's not a matter whether or not it's right or wrong. It's how do you do this the quickest. Alright, so we're going to Q save and erase. Let's go over, okay, redraw, that would be R, and if you look right here, redraw, if you do that, it'll just kind of, if you had the lines, say if I drew a circle like that, and I kind of zoom out and do it. Let's see if I do it. At any rate, sometimes see how it's kind of like jagged bumped there, kind of going around, you know, because essentially everything is just a series of straight lines. If you had a curved line and it was kind of jagged looking and you knew it was a curved line, you could type in R or RE for regen, and it'll fix that. It'll round everything back out for you. And again, we're going to use the erase command and erase that. You know, so now what we can do is go and was redraw and regen, R for redraw and RE for regen. You can just mess around with those. Now if I get another line in here, again that was L enter, and that would, in order to execute that, I'm sorry I should have went over this earlier. If you go in L and then your space bar, right click, whatever you want to do, and then you're going to left click and drag, and then left click again, and until you select enter or escape, it's going to keep doing lines. Now if I hit enter, it will get me out of that command. Now these are all individual lines, they're not joined. There's another command, polyline, which would have given me all this one line. So to rotate, let's just say we want to rotate, again escape, getting out of all that stuff, we're going to RO enter, and if I wanted to rotate that was a left click. I'll do it again, RO enter, left click, drag, right click, and if you turn your ortho on, which is F3, and then F8 to turn off or on your ortho. I'm sorry, F3 was your snap and ortho is F8. And if you hit F8, it will unlock it to where now, because see, with it on, it only rotates about a 90-degree axis. Alright, so you turn F8 on, or I mean off. Now you're free, and you can key in your rotation angle. If you look down here, this guy right here is your best friend, the command line. So rotate your object about any given point or your angle. So if I just say 45, which is 45 degrees, it'll do that. So if I undo that, which would be U enter, it'll put it back to where it was. So if I can say, I can go RO for rotate, left click, enter, and turn my F3 on. I don't know why it got turned. Oh, because I undid that. So you got to remember, if you undo anything in the middle of a command, if you undo it, everything you did in between then gets undone also. So be careful of that. So if we turn the F8 off, now if I wanted to just any particular angle, did an eyeball in it, I can hit enter. Whoop, sorry, rotate, and left click, not enter. Left click again to tell it where you want to go. There you go. So that was rotate. And the mouse selection commands, as far as left click, right click, you're gonna have to just get used to that. Usually executing the command, you're using your left click, and whenever you go to get out of a command or to solidify I'm done with the command and starting the command, you're going to use your right click. So for instance, line is going to be, that was L enter or L right click, however you want to do it, but usually I use them with space bar. So it's L enter or space bar or return, and then left click again, and then return, get you out of the command. That's going to be pretty universal for everything. That just takes practice. I'm not going to say that comes naturally. Some people it might, but alright, so blah 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 blah, that was rotate. The next one is going to be rectangle. Now we're getting into this is going to be utilizing more of a polyline kind of command, where it's REC for rectangle, and then enter or spacebar, left click and drag, and left click again, and there you go. Left click here, or you can, if you hit enter, which it should still remember the previous command. Again, it does rectangle, and I can go from here to here if I wanted to make it any shape that I wanted. There you go. Now it's a left click and a left click. Okay, so here is another way. I'm going to show you another way of keying in a rectangle. Say, man, what if I need to draw an exact 12-inch by 12-inch or a 1 foot by 1 foot box, or whatever the dimension needs to be. Instead of drawing 4 separate lines, there is a way to do that. So we're going to type in REC, enter, and then first thing we're going to do is type in shift at, and then you can say 12, 12 or 1 foot, 1 foot. However you want to key that in, you can do that either way now. But so we can go 12, 12. So shift at once you're in the command, and then it's 12, 12 after that, and you can see that right here on the command line. And so actually, guys, it's rectangle. It's hard to do whenever you're talking. So I'm gonna start to draw it first. That was a left click, start, and then drag. I was about to send you down the wrong direction. Now you do type in your shift at 12, 12. Bam, there you go. And again, that's REC for rectangle. Enter. Start to draw your rectangle. If I wanted to do, 1 foot, 36 inches. That's 1 foot by 3 feet. I guess that's 3 feet. We're going to find out, I guess. 301. What did I key in wrong? I guess it did feet. But at any rate, you know, just try to stay with the your general. Try to stay with your general units. Don't say. Usually you can. I'm not sure why it did it that time, but just mess with it. And that long and short, that's a rectangle. All right. So if you ever needed to add text to something, you can type in T, and the first one you see here is mtext, and draw you a box, and there you go. And then you can make it bigger or smaller or whatever, and that will scale. SC, enter, choose your object, and you can scale it, you know, eyeball it or tell it by a factor of 2, 3, 4, or you know, 6.923, whatever you want to do there, you can scale. So we're going to erase that. Or also within there, just like Word, you highlight it and you can edit the font style. So you know, same thing as Word. So so we're going to erase that. Just E, enter, select your object, return, and she's gone. So that is your text. And there's two different kinds of text. That was single line text. No, actually, no, that was not. T, enter. No, actually, that was different. That was multi-line text. So a lot of times, some people like to use single line text. TX. That's a different one. But anyway, so that was your text. I don't really like using the single line text anyway, so there you go. That and some of these commands are going to be different on your computer, your machine, if you don't have them set up this way. That's why some of these I might flub up, but we'll get it right. Anyway, so that was rectangle, and then text. Trim, that's a neat one to be able to utilize. Like say if we move this, that was M, enter. Now we're going to select the box and say we're going to move it there, right? So now this box for whatever reason is on top of there. And you want to trim out that middle piece, or let's just trim out this piece here that's highlighting. So it's trim is TR, enter, and then you're going to right click. So it's TR, enter, right click, and then select your line. That's one way of doing it. So I'm going to undo that. So now if you want to trim, you can select the objects. See right here, just read it if you get lost. Select objects to trim. So I'm going to trim this object. And then I selected it, left clicked, and then I'm going to return again. And now you can see it behaves differently depending on which one you chose. So, but usually what I do is it's usually just TR, enter, and then right click, and then select, and it's going to trim up to the nearest intersecting point. And then so I could even trim here if I wanted, and then we could erase that. Notice this is independent along with that, because that was two rectangles, and the rectangles that were created with a rectangle command are polylines. A polyline, just in case you don't know, is a series of lines that are connected. So when you move one, they all move, or you can, for instance, they all kind of function together. And if I wanted, I could, you know, do that. So and that's just you know, if you select your object, you get these little pick points. Then you can kind of modify it that way. But I'm going to undo those commands there. So that was your trim, and here is something for the trim command. I'm just going to draw something really quick here. You don't have to follow along with what I'm doing. I'm just going to show you how to do something Okay, let's just pretend that this is a fence, a railroad, a ladder. Doesn't matter, any object really. And you're like, man, it's just pretend there's a ton of them. And this is how I learned this command. I told you earlier, I went back to my professor and I said, you know, hey, how do you do this? Because I just spent a ton of time, and then the computer crashed on me, and I had to spend another 20 minutes fixing this. And I said, I know there's got to be a better way. So what you can do, this is utilizing the trim command with a sub-function of the fence command as well. This is actually really one of those things where keystroking command, that this is really improving your efficiency. So if you type in tr, enter, and then if you type in, let's say if you want to trim that, so it's tr, enter, and then you're going to select the line you want it trimmed up to, because I want these lines trimmed all the way up to there, so we're only left with these top ones, and I don't want to have to click. I mean, imagine if you had like a really long bunch of these. I mean, it could take you a while, and then what happens if you misclicked or just something and you have to undo it, or your computer crashes, there was a thunderstorm, whatever. So what we can do is we can tr, enter, select the line you want it trimmed up to, and then F for fence. So you're going to do that while you're in the trim command. So you're just going to draw you a line. It can be diagonal, whatever, as long as it's touching. And then you're going to left click. Hold on, what did I do? So we'll get this right. tr, enter, select it there. Oh, I'm sorry. Fence right here. I did it too early. So it's tr. We're gonna get it right. Tr, enter, select the line, enter. Now we type in F for fence. F, enter. Now we draw the line, and bam, done. Now that prevented you from having to go, you know, click, and that can be you can. What else can you use that for? There's a that fence command is actually, you can use that in a couple other commands too. For the life of me, can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah. So learn that one. I mean, that's a very important one. Trim, and then utilizing the fence command within the trim command as well will really help you out. So we're going to erase E, enter, select, and then enter, and they're gone. So, and then, all right. The next one I got on my list here is undo, and we've already done that one a couple times. Again, if I hit enter, or U, enter, I can go back you know, it's to the very beginning of the drawing. I know other programs say the last one that I learned was Tekla, and you cannot undo past a save point, which that was very foreign to me learning Tekla, was that you can't undo past a save point. Because say, what if you get an hour into your work, and then this is a 3D program, which we do 3D here in CAD too. What if you can't you just need to undo it to get to where you need to be? You can't. Or what if you accidentally saved, and then you're like, and it was just a simple 2 minutes ago, you just needed to erase something, and you can't now. That's just one good thing I like about CAD, is you can go back as far as the opening point of the program. So there you go. That was undo, which is U. And then the next one on the list was units, which we've already been over that one. That was UNITS, units. If you guys are ever curious about any other commands, look through the list here, and then you can just hit your down arrow. And this is how I found some of these commands, is just seeing options, and for each letter, if I S, you know, we haven't got to any of those yet, but you know, these are a ton of tons and tons of commands. So I, the next letter I'm up to is I. So insert. If you guys ever need to insert a block we haven't gone over what a block is yet. If you need to insert a block, or if you need to insert a photo or a PDF or a JPEG or a PNG file, anything, you do it this way. So it's I enter, and you go to wherever you have it saved, and then you click on the file, and then you can insert it that way. Another way of doing it is CAD, this ribbon here, they really try to integrate a lot of that stuff to help you out. You can attach is similar to that, so you can so if I just type in ATTAC, attach is mainly for other files, say like a PDF, a PNG, or a JPEG image, something like that. You can pick different files, and the insert is mainly for blocks, inserting a block from another drawing. So for instance, if I had this shape and I created a block out of it and I saved it, and that was the only thing in the drawing, or I could just save this whole entire drawing, and all of this would be one whole piece. If I highlighted that, everything would highlight whenever once you insert it. See if I can. Oh no, just. Yeah, I was wondering if do I have one? No, these files are too large. Well, anyway, so that's insert. So yeah, let's do it. Okay, yeah. Here, I didn't think of this. This is I have this saved in. This is a bond beam for a concrete. So you notice that's the only thing there. I've got this file saved. So I'm going to click open, go OK, and then bam. So if you notice, everything is highlighted. And the cool thing is, see, if I copy this, I was getting a little ahead of myself, but these are blocks. Right, so, and they're identical. They're clones of each other. So if I double click on that, we go OK, I'm into here, and so if I erase that, and then I go close block editor, save it, notice all of those, that's a rebar running in the direction in which you're facing, they're all gone now. Whatever you do to one of these, they'll all be affected that way as well. So we'll try to go over that in a few minutes. So but that was not trying to get ahead of myself, but that's how you insert a block from another location on your computer. Alright, that was insert. Offset, this is a cool one. I believe you can use the fence command with this one as well. So you type in, so if I, let's see here, this will be a cool one to do. So if we offset O, enter, see, it automatically gives it, and you can tell it and then so you offset, and then you click your reference point, I guess is your wherever you want to. So you go from here to say I want to offset that, say 3 inches. Just type in 3, enter, and then click your line, and there you go. And because this is a polyline, the whole things are going to get offset. Now this one, because these are two separate ones, if I type in O, enter, and you just type in enter again, we're just going to use 3 inches again because it remembers the 3. It'll remember it until you change it. Click the line, offset, and then click the line, offset. You know, so and again, let's see if we can do the fence command on that. Copy, CO. Was that C or CO? No, circle. CO for copy. Haven't got to that one yet, but we will. So I'm just gonna copy, 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 copy. So now we're going to, I might have lied to you guys. Offset. No, you can't. Now there was that's another one. At any rate, I was confusing myself over here. Yeah, you can't use a fence command on. I don't know why I was thinking you could. Anyway, the next one I have on the list. So that was offset. So let's just practice. That's a powerful one. If you're drawing something and you know it needs to be moved, offset just over the exact shape, just slightly, moved over or bigger, or you want multiple just in a row like you would a ladder or a series of lines, you can quickly copy or make an object slightly larger just by offsetting it. So, and for instance, a circle, C, enter, draw a circle, whatever size you want. And that was a left click and then a left click again. So that's L, enter, and then left click. I'm sorry, C, enter, left click, and then left click again. So, and then if you want to offset that, offset, say 5 inches this time. If I wanted to do that, it's gonna about the circumference of it will offset 5 inches, or not. Yeah. So there you go. That's that. So I get some coffee here. All right, moving right along. And if you guys if y'all bear with me here, we'll get through this, and you guys just take notes as you're going through this. Take notes. I know a good many of you probably already going to know most of these. Some of you are not going to know any of them. Some some guys are going to know most of how to draw, but the actual command is maybe elusive to you. So all right, so that was trim, undo units, insert offset, pan. Oh yeah, the next one would be pan, P, which this is one honestly I don't use. P, see, pan's the first one that pops up here. I'm not going to go, even though there are tons and tons and tons of all these, we're not going to go over every one, because these are just the basics, just to get you up and going. And as you get more confident with it, you can dive into some of those other ones. But pan, again, it's P, enter. Now you're stuck in pan commode, not commode, mode. And so yeah, so you can just hold, and no matter what you do, it's just panning. So, and then just escape a couple times to get you out of that. But I usually use 99.99999 repeating chance. I'm going to use the middle mouse button, and just like we have been doing. But that's an option for you for whatever reason your mouse button breaks and you still got to work. Blah blah blah. All right, here's a cool one. So if you type in properties the full word, or PR, enter, you're going to get this flyout box here. This right here gives you the inner workings, or the behind the scenes stuff of each one of your objects that you choose. And you can see I can choose this, and different geometry stuff's going to pop up here than it would for this. Notice here I have a circumference, a diameter, and a radius options. And choosing the rectangle, I do not. It gives your segment lengths and stuff like that. So it does have a good bit of intelligence. It knows what you choose, and it will help speed you up that way. And some people like having this up while they're working. I do part of the time, depending on what I'm working on. For instance, if we wanted to change the color to red, there you go, bam. Easy way to change color. Another way to do that would be, changing it over here, and pick whatever you want. But that's easy way to doing it without searching through all the different menus up here. Most of the stuff you want to, a good bit of what you want to change will be found in here. So for instance, sometimes you guys might inherit a drawing and you might have something that you can't trim. You're like, why can I not trim this? Check the Z. A lot of times you'll have the vertex X, Y, and Z, or it'll give you a Z or Z, depending on where you're from. It'll give you a value for Z, and make sure your start and end are 0 or the same that everything else is on. Sometimes some of these drawings are created in another program, and just through translation issues, it can you can still have a Z value in there. Like with Z, you can get into Z stuff, and that's when you start doing some you start getting into 3D stuff. So for instance, just to show you that, I'm going to go into a 3D mode really quick right here. I'm going to raise this up 1 inch. Alright, so now I'm going to go back. You guys don't have to pay attention to that. I'm just trying to show you what I'm talking about. So, oh, I'm sorry, it's your elevation, not your Z, it's elevation. So, if you notice, if you click here, your elevation is 0. Your elevation here is 1, because I only moved it up 1 inch. So, it looks fine here, but you can't tell that it has a Z value to it. So, if I wanted to trim, TR, enter, right click, well, look at that. You can trim. I made a lot of myself. I will put it this way. I have found where you cannot. Depending on what version of CAD you're working on, that is something to look out for. So, at any rate, pay attention to your Z values if you're, and sometimes it can screw your hatching up. It might not even let you hatch. We'll go over this in a few minutes, and it looks like you can, but this might be because I'm running on 2018. I know I've had problems with older CAD, like I said, but at any rate, that is your properties box. A lot of good stuff in here. A lot of good stuff. If you notice here, you can. It'll give you a bunch of different options to choose from there. Let's say for here, there. See, I chose a bunch of different options or type of objects. And you can say, I only want to choose the circles, or I only want to choose the polylines. You know, so I can say only circles. You know, and then whatever you change here will only affect that, which is really neat. So we're going to go ahead and close this. Right? Don't choose up here. This is new to 2016 and 18 or whatever, or 17. I've screwed that up a couple times. Down here, make sure you're directly across from the word properties, then you close. You close that, you're closing the whole drawing. If you want to, guys, go ahead and hit the save button. That way if something happens, good thing to, you can set these save intervals up for 1 minute, 5 minutes, hour, 1 day, whatever. But so the next one we're going to do is, let me get on my list here. Properties, arc. This is a neat one, arc. It is exactly what it sounds like. So we're going to go, and there's several different kinds of arc, but we're just going to go over a basic one to get you going. It's just A, enter, and you pick your start point. Now this next point, this is going to be a 3-point arc. Your next one is going to be your apex, or the top of your arc. See it? That was the highest point that I chose was there, and then I chose back in on that line. If you want, you can. Now that gets modified because what it's doing is it's still holding. It's holding its. It was holding its position. So a lot of times what I like to do, if I know exactly the radius and whatever, so if I want to offset this line, say 6 inches, so that was offset, and then chose 6 for the value, and then we're going to either up or down, doesn't matter. So now, and if I know that, just for instance, we're going to choose the midpoints there, triangles or midpoints, when you do a selection in your F3. So which brings me to a sidebar note here. Let's look at your OhSnap stuff. And I apologize for not going over this earlier, it just dawned on me. So if you type in your OhSnap, is all the little symbols, like say that's endpoint, and you're like, wait a minute, it was just a triangle. Well, it's also that dependent, because it was reading this, the end point of that line is also intersected with the midpoint. It's just going to change if you're having overlapping endpoints or whatever. So if you type in OhSnap, OhSnap, And this is how you can get into that and turn on your OhSnap stuff. This is your endpoint, midpoint, center. If you do not have it chosen, it will not show up when you hover over a line. These are just the ones that work for me. Depending on what industry you're in, you're going to need other ones. Some of these over here maybe, and maybe even less, but this is what I'm comfortable with. So once you get comfortable with that, and again it says F3, which one, if you look on your keyboard, hit F3 and that'll turn on. If not, just type in OhSnap and turn it on. So they're going to OK. Just get familiar with those symbols, that way you'll know what you're choosing. Okay, so type in line again, see how it's doing that. Or you can just type in, if you want to make sure it's on the mid, you can go MID, enter, and see now, no matter where I choose, hover over, it's going to choose the mid. I can be right here, and it'll still draw the line about the midpoint. So, and that was a left click to get that to do that, by the way. So if you're in the middle of trying to draw a line and you don't whatever, and you want to make sure it's exactly on the midpoint or exactly on the end point or the tangent or whatever, and it's not showing up, or if it's like a node, which is kind of like just a speck or a point on a line that you've identified, you can type in those. So that was arc. No, we're not done with it yet. So that was, so if you choose your, if I know, say, you know, I offset this, say 6 inches this way, 6 inches that way, and I want to be at the midpoint, you know, this line, I can type in arc. There's my start point, midpoint, and then end. And then if you wanted, highlight, and that was a left click, come down. If you wanted, you can even drag it back up, and these points are locked until you tell them not to be. Again, if you wanted, you can take that and bring that back down. It's pretty versatile, whatever you want to do. So we're going to erase this, E. I'm going to erase that, just cleaning it up a little bit. So about halfway done, I guess. So that was your arc. Alright, the next one's going to be area. That's a pretty cool one, I think. Let's just move this little guy out of the way. That was M, enter, and then you can move it, but we'll get to that one in a little bit. The next one's area, is AA. If you guys ever needing to calculate something. Now you're just going to click about basically the vertexes of where the lines are coming together. So you can go click here, there, and there, enter, and if you pay attention right here, it's going to tell you there's 144 square inches, or 1 square foot, and your perimeter is 4 feet. And if you guys know a little bit about basic math, the area of a square foot is 144 square inches, because that's 12 inches this way, 12 inches that way. 12 times 12 squared is 144. Your perimeter is 4 feet, because that's 1 foot plus 2 foot, 3 foot, 4 foot. And you can do that with a line that has 100 different sides, and as long as you pick all the correct whatever points, vertexes, you can accurately, very accurately, to a thousandths of a square foot, or however you got it set up to your precision, you can get exact square footage or the area of whatever you're trying to calculate, whether it be for a roof or a slab or for whatever. And you can if you get into doing 3D stuff, there's another command you can get in for that as well. But alright, so that was area. Alright, here's another one we can do called stretch. It's the next one on the list, past A on your keyboard. So that's S, enter, and now we're going to left click, and then you start your box, and then I'm just going to touch this little guy right here, and that was another left click, and now I'm going to right click, and then I'm just going to pick anywhere. So if I wanted to stretch this 4 feet, or if you wanted to go 40, well, you just go 4 feet, yeah, 4 feet, say 4 foot 2.5 inches. You don't have to do the inch mark after that. And there you go. And so what if I wanted to stretch just this one corner? S, enter, left click again, right click, and you don't have to pick the actual point because you only went over that. And then, so what we're going to do, because we didn't encompass that over there, we only encompassed that intersecting corner, so that's the only corner that's going to get modified. If I want to say 12 inches, there you go. So just to let you know, you can't really stretch a circle. So no matter how hard you try, it's really, and the only way you can really do that is highlighting it and then clicking your quadrant points. You can click the center and move it, or make the circle bigger or smaller, respectively. You can even type in a value. But better way to do that would be to scale it, and that's actually our next command. So if you guys wanted to say, for instance, if you had an object, we're just going to draw a couple objects here just to kind of show you how this next command works. So that, yeah, that was your stretch command. So pretty basic there. So the next one is scale. So I'm going to draw a rectangle, RAC, enter here, and then, like say I got, I'm going to copy this over here, and real quick I'm going to scale it up on unknown factor. There, and scale is SC. So so if I wanted to do that, that was scale, enter, and then you're going to left click, select, right click, and then you can pick your base point, follow the directions down here on the command line, and then you can scale. You can go you can type in a value or eyeball it. But oftentimes I'm finding that when I want to scale something, I'm like, I need this box exactly the same size as this box. And something that I do on the regular is I'll have a photo of something that I'm drawing to reference, and I'm drawing over the photo, whether it be not tracing but getting the basic geometry of an object, especially if you're just doing something for presentation purposes and you don't really, nothing has to be exactly scaled. Quick way to get something pretty close. So let's just say I'm gonna make this guy right here a different color. Let's make him green. Stands out pretty different with the white there. So we're gonna just move this guy. That was M, enter, left click, choose the object, right click, choose your base point, left click the base point, and then left click your destination endpoint. So so what we're going to do is, and if I want this, because remember I just scaled it up really big, so if you want this, if you know they're pretty close to the same, what you can do is type in SC, enter, choose your object, enter, and then choose your base point. Now here's where it gets neat. See this right here? Reference. And always you can type in the whole word or just the capital letter or letters that are in the grayed out boxes here, or you can just click that, but I usually just type in R. So now what you can do is you can say, I want this, I'm referencing this size in comparison to this size. So what you do is, now that you're in the reference command, you can click your origin object size, which is from I left clicked here, and I'm going to left click there at the end point of that one, and now you say, now I want it to be this big, and there you go. So and that can be any shape. What I'm going to do is just for instance, let's see here, circle. Draw a circle, and I'm going to move this circle. That was move, and then it chose the quadrant. I'm going to move it there, and move it. I choose that quadrant, there you go. So I just got the circle set up exactly at the intersecting corners of those, and say I want this diameter exactly as wide as this object. And this could be good for anybody doing, for this particular scenario, you're designing a wiring schematic or piping or a garden. You know, it's gonna be a, pretend that's a plant. Really, whatever, you know, you might use a circle for. So so you can type in scale. No, it's SC, enter. Choose your object. So it's a left click, and then now you're going to right click, and now you're going to choose your base point, which in this case it's not going to be down here, it's going to be here, your quadrant. If you did it here, the scale wouldn't really turn out, because it'd be hard to really, I mean, you can using these intersecting lines, but sometimes I find that, you know, you can accidentally click wrong. So we're going to choose here, and then again R for reference, R, enter. And so we're going to again choose that point. So you go left click, left click, left click. So now your circle is that big. And a lot of you more seasoned guys are probably going, well, why didn't you just measure the bottom of this and tell it to make the diameter that? You can do it that way as well. So now if you look at the so if we undo all of that here, and if we measure, which is you'll have to might have to pull these up in your if you don't have this set up as far as your some of your, help me out here guys, your buttons here, if you don't have them set up, just you can do a quick online query as to how to get, because I kind of like to draw with classic view, and people new to CAD might not know what that means. Some icons I still use, like this right here, just because it's like a four-letter thing to get these to work right, like dim, lin. So I just usually see that it'll even tell you right there whenever I hover over it, that whole long line, it'll tell you what you need to type in. But anyway, so if you click in there to get you a dimension, you got 87 inches. You know, so if you say 87.7512, you can go here. If you open your properties back up, PR, enter, you can type in your diameter is 87.5712, so it'd be 80, backspace all that, 87.5712, and now it's exactly that. And all you got to do is move about the quadrant points, see how that matches up, or supposed to anyway. But anyway, you get the idea. You can just measure your distance here. I might have typed it in wrong, but yeah, that's another way of doing it. So we're going to erase this and erase that. Like I said, guys, there's more than one way to do things in CAD, especially in CAD. Usually there's 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 ways to doing something. So this is more of a rudimentary, just to get you going. Again, I want to stress that. So that was stretch. Donut. Alright, this is a neat one. It's going to basically create a shape that looks exactly like this, except it's going to be hatched on the inside. It's going to be like a solid color. So we're going to type in donut, is D-O, enter. Now you want to type in the inside diameter. If you don't want there to be a hole in the middle, type in 0. But if you do need there to be a hole in the middle, you can choose whatever. And so if I want to make so I left clicked, and if you look over here at your ortho near the bottom of the cursor, excuse me, it'll tell you right now I'm at 6 and 11/16 inches, and that's fine. We're just, you know, you can type in 7 if you want. And then what's the outside diameter? Let's make that 12 inches or a foot. So now see it, and there you go, bam, 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 left clicking everywhere. And so now those, it's like a solid, you know, circle for, I guess, you know, I use them for different things. And if you want, you can explode these, and that turns back into circles. Takes the kind of smart stuff out of it, the intelligence, just makes it a circle. And that's neat. It kind of splits it up into halves. That's weird. Yeah, well, at any rate, so that's a donut. You can play with that. And if you want to say, again, for DO, enter, I want the inside to be 0, 0, and I want the outside to be, say, 24 inches, which is 2 feet. Now it's like a solid circle. So that's kind of cool. And again, if you explode it, it kind of changes that. So you can erase all that. And again, that was E for erase. Alright, next on the list is Fillet. Fillet. Well, F-I-L-L-E-T, which is a pretty powerful command. Powerful command. Good Lord, I can't speak. So if I just drew a line here, that was L, enter, and then I drew another one, say at another angle, say there, and then I had another one there, and say if you just had some lines, and you're like, well, I need that to exactly touch this one, and then, you know, what you can do is you can type in F, enter, and to change the radius, because if you have a radius established, it will give you a smooth angle versus a like a straight one. So we're going to type in, just to make sure, we're going to type in R, enter, 0, enter, and choose the lower part of the line, not because if you choose up here, it won't do it, because if you draw an imaginary line, anything above this point here won't work. So you got to choose down here and choose back here. See how it did that? And it trimmed it and connected them for you all in one command. So we're, again, that's, and if you hit enter, it remembers it. Enter. Now you get, and you're going to left click back and left click, and there you go. And if I drew another line, L, enter, left click, enter, to get you out of that. Now what if I say, well, I want a rounded corner on this one? How do you do that, Brian? I go, well, okay, that's easy enough. Fillet, F, enter. Now you, again, go back to your radius, R, enter, and so if we want our radius, and you can eyeball it or give it a known numerical number, but I'm just going to eyeball it. So I'm going to go here. I want the radius to be something like that big, just whatever. So this one, you can see what it did. You can do it again. Just again, that just because it remembers fillet, and it's also going to remember your radius that you've previously established. So you're going to left click. If you wanted, you can do it again. Keep doing it. There, enter. There you go. That is a powerful, like one of the more ones that I use a lot, because it's like a double command, sort of, like it trims it and connects your lines, and it can create an arc for you. It really, that's one that really helps speed you up. And alright, so that one was good. And then if you wanted, you know, you could use, like, say for instance, some of our other commands. If you want to say offset this, O, enter, and if you say you want to offset it, say 2 inches, yeah, offset, yeah. See how I'm having to do each one of these separate lines? It's because they're not polylines. So if I erase these, here's another cool command. To join, J, I know I'm getting a little out of order here, but we'll get to it. I'll get back to it in a second. It's actually only 2 more down the line. So we'll skip over hatch, then go into this one. Join, it says J, enter. Just select all your objects that you want to join together. Now you obviously can't join a circle and a circle that aren't even touching together. So they've got to be touching. So now that we've joined these lines, see how they're all connected now? They all they're going to function together. So now if we offset it, and again, remember if you look down here, we have it set it to, you can just say OK, and then you choose your line, and then it does it for you, and you keep going if you wanted. So that's a real neat way of you know, creating almost like a topographical map, or some kind of whatever design, whether it be for like a parking lot, and you know, you wanted to offset for the curb, you know, or the planter, or you know, whatever, you know, or a gasket for a machined part, or whatever you want. Pretty neat way of doing that. Alright, and that was join. And again, your lines, so if you have a line here, and again, they have to be touching, and they can't have a Z value or any kind of elevation, because they have to actually be touching, not hovering over. So there, I'm just drawing line. Again, that was L there. So you know, that's just a bunch of lines, and see how they're independent. So again, if you join J, enter. Now if you click it, there you go. So if we offset that, that's O, enter, and just give it a little tiny one, let's say 1 inch. That's kind of neat. It's not, but anyway, you get the idea. So that'll speed you up, offsetting your stuff. Oh, we skipped one. Did we skip? Yeah, we did. Let's go back to S, the S commands here. I don't know how did I forget that. Spline. This is a really neat command. If you're trying to trace something, you can. There's a command. I think it is TRAC. Yeah. No. Anyway, there's a way you can trace stuff, and it gives you a bunch of individual segmented lines, and it's kind of, it works, but I don't really like it. You can also type in, what am I, spline. Good Lord, I'm losing my mind. SPL, and it should finish it for you. Yeah, SPL is a shortcut there, and this one creates a polyline arc, if you will, to where, like say, if you left click to get it going, and then click another one, and you just kind of play with this, and you kind of really get a feel for how it functions. See how it gives you a really smooth function. And you get over here and type in C, enter. C was for close. You're closing the gap. You're asking the computer to, hey, please think for me here. I'm pretty close to where I want to be, so just close it. Because a lot of times when you're using spline, if you close it, it'll give you this like loop on the side, and I'll show you what I mean. So we're going to spline a bunch of lines here, and when I go to click here, see how it's kind of getting and I click, it kind of doesn't want to act right. So that's why I always use the close command, C. See, even then, if you get too close to it, it kind of doesn't know what to do. So usually when you're using a spline, SPL, spline, you know, just click, get pretty close, not too close, close. See, and see how it filled it in for you. And you can do that with other commands as well. And now that we're talking about things that I've forgotten, there's another one, polyline. I've mentioned this several times. PL, enter. You can type, you know, and that was a left click and a left click here, left click. Now it's, instead of, you know, coming all the way over to this, you can, even down here, you can type in C for close, and it's all one line. And again, if you can offset, and because they're polylines, just like that, you can offset it. Say offset. We're just going to use the, just make it 3 inches. Enter. Bam. Make that inside. You can make that outside or inside. It's just another neat way of getting your shapes to be exactly how you want them. Then just erasing those shapes. We'll keep those in there for future stuff. Alright, so that was spline and polyline, which they're like cousins, sort of, in the thinking about it. You know, one's just a smoother version of the other. Hatch. Let's go over hatch. Alright, so hatch is basically a predefined pattern by Autocad. You can create your own. You can create your own. That's another animal in and of itself, which is I'll have to save that for another time. But what hatch is like you saw with the donut command we did earlier. It created this solid whatever. But you can create, like if you wanted to create shingles or siding or concrete or whatever, you can. It's in there. You don't have to draw all that. You ever see a set of plans and you're like, someone drew all those little tiny specks on there? No, it's a predefined pattern. So hatch is a couple different ways you can do it. You can type in, I think, H for hatch or BH for hatch. I toggle between the two. I just do. So what you do, and I'm not even going to pretend this command can make you want to quit your job, because it can be aggravating. For instance, if you got this, you drew this shape here, and for whatever reason one of these lines was not touching the other. I'm talking about even by like a micro speck of a distance, it won't do it because it's not closed. That's why I showed you guys the C close command for this and for these two guys, to make sure the entity in itself was a closed object. So you can think of it in terms of if it was a solid surface and you had poured liquid in it, would it leak? If it if the answer to that is yes, then it won't work. Because it would have to, what it's trying to do is calculate the entire infinite, because this drawing thing it doesn't end. I mean, you can make that, I could draw a line a mile long right here, and we can do it. I mean, see, a line is a mile is 5,280 feet, 5,280 feet. And there you go. That's a mile. You can see how long a mile is compared to how long all the stuff over here we're drawing. So I mean, there is no limit to your scale. So what we're going to do is hatch. That was just disclaimer on that. So be sure your lines are touching. And if you can't hatch, that's probably why. There's a couple other quirky issues that you're going to encounter, but for the large majority, that's going to be why you can't hatch. Again, if your objects are touching, but say this object has a different Z elevation than say this object, you won't be able to hatch it because they're not in the same plane. It's trying to fill in a known area. So without rambling like I tend to do anymore, or BH, or see, I told you BH or H, whatever you want to do, and it defaults into a certain pattern. And if you have the newer versions of CAD, it'll give you some options up here to start from. I usually just go ahead and pick something like that, and you left click the enter, left click the area that you want hatched, and then it'll do it for you. Now if you want to change that, you can scroll and say, let's do a better one, a better area. BH, enter. So that was left click enter. So we'll choose this, and see how you're getting different options here. It's concrete. You know, it's kind of a brick sort of looking. You know, it's your herringbone hatch pattern for like pavers. Parquet is one. That's a neat one. Yeah, here's shingles. There you go. It's a bigger rectangle, so you can kind of see REC enter. So again, it's B8 block hatch. choose it there, and yeah, so now you can kind of see a better representation of what these are. Shingles. Some people like using this for the roof. I've seen a lot of architects do that. I use this particular pattern, shingles, when I'm doing a roof. That's just when I use. I mean, another way of accessing this is to double click on it, and then and then you click on the pattern name. Click this little guy right here, and it pulls up all. You can actually see all of them. This is kind of the way I do it, just because I can see them all. And then you can go okay. See how it changed it. Now if you wanted to, this is the pattern I use whenever I'm putting in for a truss, the little clip that connects all the trusses together. I use this pattern I use there, but so if you type in PR, well, actually no, let's get used to using this way. So you can see the angle is 0. You can change the angle, you can change the scale. So for here, let's change the scale to say 6. So that made them bigger. Still filled in the same. So if you get something and it's a pattern that's incredibly tight, it'll, and it's not functioning correctly, change the scale. Another way to do this would be properties box, PR enter, select your pattern, and again, see how we changed it to 6. It's still there. And you can change all of that, and you can also change color if you want. That's a quick way of doing it. And neat thing about this is if you can explode it. Well, it's getting ahead of myself, but that's X enter, highlight or select left click the pattern, enter. Now each line is an independent line, and if you wanted, you could go and erase, and you can erase some of them. So another way to get a bunch of a shape in there really quick if that particular kind of shape is what you were looking for. So I'm going to erase all this. E enter. There you go. So that was hatch. Hatching is a really cool thing. Another kind of hatch is a gradient hatch, which is a solid hatch that fades into another color. One color fading into another color. So BH enter there. It just, because that was the one we chose before initially. Here it should, see, it automatically changed up here for me, or you can change it over here. I'm gonna close this. So you come down, oh, so there they go. So you're here. Let's not do that one. Yes, do that one. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, do this one. So these two colors are yellow and blue. That's pretty obvious statement, but if you type in your properties box, PR enter, and you go to, now you can change any color you want. So, and now it's just solid because there's yellow on yellow, but now it's yellow on green, cyan. A lot of times what I'll do, I use this pattern for my windows, and I'll go to a custom colors, and I'll select like a let's see, a blue color like that. My second color will be like a white or a gray. So it kind of makes it look like there's like a little bit of reflection. It's just depending on however you want to use this. So yeah, there you go. That's your gradient hatch. This is your regular hatch. And if you wanted, you can change it to that. I mean, it's still a hatch, so you can change it. So we're going to erase that and erase that. Alright, so that was hatch. I believe we've already been over the join command. That was the one I had next on my list, join. So, and we just went over explode a minute ago. So if I explode that, you can explode polylines. Not this one because it's a spline, but you can explode single line that would be normally single lines like that. And so again, join was J enter, left click, and left click again to go over the whole window, and then enter, and it's joined again. So sometimes you might want to have to join, explode it, and then reconnect it, just for whatever reason, for your just the functionality of what you're trying to do. Alright, here's the next one on my list was line, which is I've kind of already been over that, but that was L, enter, left click again, and then you can keep left clicking until your finger falls off, until you hit enter, or right click, and it'll you'll be done. And again, if you type in L, enter, you left click, and now if you want to turn your ortho, which is your F8, now you can kind of draw a custom. If you wanted to say I want that custom angle there, but I want it to go straight again, you can turn your ortho back on. You can turn it on and off in the middle of a command. So there, and then my next one, I want to turn my ortho back off. Again, I want to kind of come over this way, and I want to do another custom angle, but now I want my ortho back on. And then if you can click there and choose the intersecting point, so now it's exactly, so you know, million and one different ways of making your lines. So there you go. And again, these are just single lines, and if you wanted to join them, J, enter, now it's all one line. So so there you go, and that would have worked with your polyline as well. So that was line. Alright, neat one here for when you get into labeling is just leader, or it's going to be called Q leader, but the command, oh my goodness, stretching. The command is LE for leader. It does LE, enter. And then if you choose the, like say the tip of where the arrow would be, and then click, and then come, and then you left click, and then enter. There, man, you got you an arrow now. Now, if your scale's off, it's going to look kind of funny. Or if you're like, man, I don't like the arrow, something else you can do. Or if you, for instance, LE, you can choose your line there, and you can go there. See how you can only do 2 points there? So it's a quick way around. That's LE, enter. And if you look down here at command line, you go to settings. The only capital letter is S, so you go S, enter. Now here, if you go to just some properties here, if you go to leader line, here, yeah. So if you wanted a spline, which would give you a more smooth one, the number of points would be no limit. And let's say if I wanted just I like to use, where'd it go? Where did it go? Dot close. I think maybe it's that one. So there. So now if I pick that point, now see how the line's smooth, and because I chose no limit on the lines, I can, if I had to draw my leader line, and that was enter, and if you highlight it, it's all one thing. And if you click here, you can actually change the, basically it's a line or whatever, just with a point on it, or an arrow or whatever shape. So yeah, that's a quick way of drawing a leader. It's LE. Alright, this is something we haven't really talked about much yet. The next thing is your layer. Your layers are an incredibly important part of AutoCAD, and that's right here. You can access your layers here or by typing in LA. But to change on the fly, you're going to just type in, you're just going to go here. And these three are in here because I inserted that block in the very beginning of our tutorial here, and these three layers were in this block. So the system remembers those layers. So let's pretend now I can make those go away by purging. Purging means forget everything that's not showing up right now. Basically, purge all that, close. Now you can't get that back. So now if you there's nothing there. So this is what you guys are going to be dealing with on a new drawing. So unless you've opened a drawing that you've just wiped everything out of it and you're starting and you already have predefined layers in here. But so to get new layers, you guys can type in LA and then click on this little gadget right here, this little guy, new layer, or you can just go Alt N as shown there. So we're just going to click on that, and we're just going to call it I don't know, let's just call it AAA AAA, just for whatever you want to call it. This right here, these two, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know the difference between, let's move this over. I don't really know the difference between this and this. If you guys know, please tell me. I use them interchangeably. I guess it doesn't really, I think there's a little bit different in the functionality, but I guess I've never had to know the difference, but they essentially do the same thing. If you freeze a layer, it disappears. If you turn a layer off, it disappears. It means you can't edit it. I think freeze means it can't edit if it's in a block or something like that. But it basically, if you just want to turn a layer on or off to disappear so that you can clean your drawing up, or if it's drawing that you guys are using that has like if it's like a schematic that has, say, electrical, plumbing, architectural, dimensions, block, all these different layers, like each one of your layers, you would have one for, say, plumbing or electrical, and then dimensions or dimensions overall, or subdimensions or walls or anything. You can, as many layers you can create in here, you just feel free to, and that way it'll make your drawing, you can draw a lot faster. That way if you wanted to isolate a layer, isolate something, you could do it really quick without having to erase a bunch of stuff and then undo everything, and just makes it your life a lot easier. It takes some discipline, I'm not gonna lie, it takes some discipline to do that. But so, and as you're drawing, you have to constantly be updating your layers. Let's say if over here, if you wanted this to be one layer, and then you wanted this to be one layer, and that to be one layer, you have to identify those each time you draw them. That being said, we can create that one, and we can make it a let's make it that color. See there? And if you wanted to, you can turn it on or off, which wouldn't make sense right now because we don't have anything drawn with it because it's new. Here's the line weights. You pull that out a little bit. This is the color. What is that? Transparent. Oh, you can make it a more transparent or not. And then over here, that little printer symbol looking thing basically means it either prints or it doesn't print. Now you can have lines all through here, but if you set them to no plot, see there's that little circle around it, that means that you can draw lines and have reference points all over the place for your drawing purposes, but when you go to plot or print, they will not show up. Neat little function. I use it a good bit. Like if I knew on a particular sheet, if I knew I had to insert this object at that point, I could have a little symbol or a line or an arrow or a reference point with that line, and it'll go in at that exact same spot every time without having to worry about that line showing up. So, but we're gonna do that. So we got that one line created, and there you go. So if you go here, there you go. We got you a new layer in there. So we can switch to our trip. Man, we can select that, and it's on by layer, and you can go by layer or by block. Try to keep it by layer for right now. Now when you draw, every line is going to be that color and that layer. And if I wanted to switch layers back to the 0 layer, which is just default, line enter, and there you go. So if you see that, it's a 0 by layer, and now it's AAA by layer. Now if you select both of them, it doesn't know. So if you type in properties, I think, will it do it? No, it doesn't. You can change the layer here. You can have a bunch of them together, and you can change them all to whichever one you choose. So it's another neat way of doing it that way, using your properties box. Exit. There you go. All right. And again, the layer that's a whole nother rabbit hole. You can get as disciplined and as complex with your layers as you choose to be. I knew a friend of mine. He was an architect. That he was a little bit old school. He drew in one color and one layer, and that was it. It was blue. Made it incredibly hard when you got one of his drawings to analyze what's going on, because one of the powerful points about AutoCAD is to be able to see multiple colors on top of each other to differentiate what you're drawing. So when you get a question as to what is this, you can quickly identify what it is. Even though the guys in the field are only going to see the black and white most of the time, you'll be able to answer their question much more efficiently than not really knowing. If you had a ton of intersecting lines together, then you could quickly count up stuff, or I mean, I think you understand what I'm trying to say. Just don't do that. For the love of all that's good, don't draw in all one color. It's a horrible practice. If you're going to do that, you might as well just be drawing in Microsoft Art, because this is one of the key powerful things in AutoCAD. So, and if you go to, like, just kind of show you example here of a drawing that I did. You'll be able to see if it ever loads. This is a 3D drawing. We're not going to get into that, but if you can see here how I created all these. I can turn on or off any of these things at any particular time, and it really helps out. So if I wanted to turn off say these square tubes, which are going to be these guys right here, I can turn off and see how they disappeared. I mean, it really cleans the drawing up if you're trying to look at stuff that way. And again, you know, that it functions in a 3D world also. You can see how it's 3D, and you can turn layers on and off, even working in that. You know, something, you know, another way to do it would be to type in -LA, enter. You get a bunch of options here: on, off, color, line weight, blah 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 blah. So if I want to just type it off, you're going to type in OFF and then enter again. Select the object or the layer and enter a couple times, and all objects in the entire drawing will go. They're off. They're not erased. They're off. And so now a quick way to get that back, if you want that layer turned back on, you can come back up here, click it back on, and that's, you know, probably the quicker way to turn it on and off would be here. If I want to say off, 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 you can just go through the entire drawing and strip it down to exactly what you're wanting to see, and you can, whatever you want. I mean, stuff will just slowly start to disappear. And see, this is kind of what I was getting at. This is the 0 layer. You can't turn your current layer off. So anyway, you can see how this works. I mean, it's pretty. It really cleans your drawing up to how you, whatever you want it to be. I'm gonna close this out now. No. All right. That was our layer. That was a basic intro to your layer stuff, and I got a text message. So, layer. What do I want to do? Lengthen. This is a cool one, I think. Not used a lot, but I guess if you get used to it, I mean, you could use it a lot. So if I wanted to stretch this line, a known, it's why I don't use it a lot, because usually I use stretch over it. But if you wanted to lengthen a line a certain distance, you can. And I'm curious if I do a spline, S-P-L-I-N-E, this might be a little bit more of a better function. So I'm just drawing a funky shape here. We're going to do it on two different objects. We're going to lengthen, L-E-N. Alright, so delta percent total dynamic. Delta, D-E, delta, mathematically, that means a change in. So the change in length is what it's usually what I usually use when I do this. And then obviously the percent would be the total percentage of the overall line. If you want it to increase by, say, 100%, or whatever, you type in that percentage. Or if it only 90% is long, or 80% is long, or and dynamic, really don't even know what that is. I've never really had to use it, but for what we're doing, we're going to go delta, which is a change in length. Just you have two capital letters there, so it's DE, so it's DE. And it doesn't matter if your caps lock is on or not, as long as the letters correspond with the two letters are there. So enter. And so we are going to type in, say, 33.125, 33 1/8 inches that we want the total length to change. Go enter. Now you can click your line, and it will increase by that much every time. And if you keep doing it, and I guess that could be neat if you were trying to increase incrementally. If you had a known distance, you know, I'm trying to think of an example, but I guess you guys could probably come up with something that if you know incrementally you had to increase by a certain number, and you could kind of see how many times it would take to get to that, you know. But anyway, let me see if it'll work with this. Nope, see that little, nope, can't do it with splines. No can do, but anything, whatever side that you're on that's going to lengthen it to. There. Again, you know, it's just any line. And again, those are your splines. Can't do circles. Yeah, you'll know right away if you're able to do it. So, see, cool little command. Lengthen. Lengthen. Zoom. Yeah. So zoom is usually. Sorry. Another stretch there. Usually zoom is performed by using the middle mouse button, you know, scrolling. But occasionally if you wanted to exactly zoom in on something, you would type in Z, enter, and it's going to default to window. It just does. And what you can draw a window, and there you go. And what it does is it centers that object on the screen about the window that you created, or it centers the window that you created onto your viewable screen. It expands everything, only, you know, pretty much visible whatever you chose. Again, Z, enter. There's different objects here, you know, dynamic. Again, I don't know what the dynamic is. That extents. I guess dynamic would mean you could change on the fly. Let's try D. Okay, what was that? Z. Say again, Z, enter. Was a weird thing. Extents is a cool one. So that's Z, enter, E, enter. And what zoom extents is, basically it says, show me everything on my drawing board, or my on my screen. Here's the thing though, this is the way you can check to see if you have a line. Say I drew an itty bitty line right there. Now if I'm drawing over here, and then remember how we inserted a block earlier? If I insert browse since 5. Yeah, we'll just, you know, that one. Sometimes when you insert something, for whatever reason, it inserts it. See how it's way down there? And you inserted it, and you know you did, without a shadow of a doubt. Another way to do that would be to, if you can insert stuff, keystroke command stuff, and I'll share that in a few minutes. What was that? Control. Sorry, I had to make a note so I didn't forget it. Forget that. But if you insert something, it'll be way off in the background, and you're like, well, where is it at? Does the scale off? Where, you know, what you do is type in Z, enter, E, enter, and then if you go Control A, so you get a blue dot way down here, and you got some blue dots way over here. And if you zoom out a little bit, now you can see our additional objects that are in the screen. So you can go, I want to move this guy, M, enter, just draw a window. I'm going to move him all the way up to here. I'm going to move these guys all the way over to here. Now we can zoom in a little bit. And then you can just keep moving them in until you can actually see what's going on. See it? Now we can actually see it. Now you can move it again. So a lot of times that's what happens. Whenever that's why the zoom extents is a pretty common thing. So again, that was Z, enter, and you can do zoom previous, your previous zoom, your percentage of a zoom. I use that sometimes, not usually, rarely ever actually. Object, I guess I've never tried that. So we can go type in O. I guess click the object, and then it zooms to that object. I guess it's similar to the window, except you're choosing an object. Again, if it's Z, enter, O, enter, choose your object. See how it gets zoomed to that object. So, explode. That's a cool one. We went over that one already, but again, that was, you would think that it would be like EX, and you can set these up to however you want. Let's see. Oh, wow. I'm trying to ALAY. I can't spell. Now I'm looking for the word alias. I can't spell worth anything. But anyway, you can, with minimal research, you can figure out how to change the alias editor. COM. That was like command alias editor. Command. Anyway, explode. I was just trying to help that away. If some of you guys have your commands a little bit different than mine, but anyway, So, for instance, this guy right here said, well, I don't want these two, and I need to erase them. So you can explode, X, enter. X is for explode. You select your object, left click, select, enter. Now and then now you can erase. There you go. And if you wanted to, you could join J. Now they're back again. If you explode them again, X, enter. You know, and I can undo that. So they see you can keep undoing till it's back where you want. Another way to get rid of those would have been to trim. TR, enter, right click, trim. Like I said, there's a bunch of different ways to do stuff. It's whatever your thought process is at the moment that can get you there the quickest. So that was it. And there's things you can't explode. I don't think you can. I don't explode. Like I say, you can't. This is a spline. You cannot explode a spline. It's like a circle. It's not going to break out each one of these little individual tiny lines. That would, that would just kill your memory. You know, this one you can, even though see how it's arced, but remember we created a fillet on each one of these. So if I exploded this outer one, that's X, enter, left click, right click. See, now each one of these are individual lines. If I wanted to, now I can erase those. So I'm gonna undo that. There you go. Again, can't erase those. I mean, not erase, but you can't explode those. Now you could, if let's say for instance, I think we can do it this way. Join. No, can't. I could make these a single line, but maybe we'll do that in a few minutes to kind of show you how to do that. So, all right. Yeah, that'll remind me to go like this. I'll move it in some. There you go. Because what we'll do is we'll trim out these, and then anyway. So the next one is layer, lengthen, zoom, explode, circle. Huh? Well, it's funny that we get to circle because we've already done those. So again, circle is C, enter, left click again. There you go. Again, C, enter, left click. Identify your diameter or your radius. Here it's asking for your diameter. If you wanted, you can type in. It's defaulted to radius. That's why it's not in here. Or you can type your diameter. Your diameter is just 2R. You're twice your radius. So, or 2 times the radius. So if you know your radius is 1.5 feet or 1.5 feet or 18 inches, 2 times that, or 2 times 1.5 feet is 3 feet. Or to say an easier number, 1 foot. 2 times 1 foot is 2 feet. So you know your diameter is going to be 2 feet versus a 1 foot radius. So if I just type in 1 foot, or that was 1 inch. Sorry, I just typed in 1. Let's try C 12, or let's try 1 foot. Good night. I'm not getting this right. 1 foot. There we go. It should have a. I just moved it up a little bit. So if I select that, type in PR, you can see now that it's a 2 foot diameter with a 1 foot radius. And if you knew, you go, well, shoot, that was just bigger than what I thought. You can say, I wanted a 1 foot diameter. You can say 1, and it will change it on the fly, and your radius automatically gets updated. Pretty cool. That's why I said this is pretty powerful. Change stuff on the fly really quick with it. I'm just going to erase that. That was your circle. Another one we've been over already is copy. That's C-O, enter. If I wanted to copy this little gadget right here, I can just getting ahead of myself. Let's close this. That's C-O, enter. Left click, right click, and find your base point. You're going to left click your base point. And so now, if you turn your ortho off, anytime it's going straight, your ortho is on. Your ortho is F8. So you can click there, anywhere you want. Now you have copies. Now these are not blocks like we inserted that other one. They're not blocks. So be careful with that. And that's actually going to be our next command anyway, because it's on your the next on my list here. I'm going to skip V. There's really nothing that I can remember that in a 2D command. There's nothing for a V. So, but say, okay, Brian, well, I need to create a block. And again, a block is a series of objects that basically it's a file inserted into CAD. That it's an independent drawing, and it can interact with the rest of your drawings here, and you can explode it, in which basically everything now is independent. So for instance, say this is not a block, but we can say we can copy that. Remember about CO, We're going to copy it down to here. But say I want to make this guy, just to differentiate between it, we're going to change this color to say magenta here. Alright, and then we'll give him a small offset of say just a 1/16 of an inch there. So now it's close, but it's different. That way we can, and even say we'll even maybe rotate it. So that was rotate was, remember, is RO. See here. Again, guys, if I just because I've been doing this so long, if I've forgotten to say exactly what I'm doing, just pay attention to the command line, and it might go quick, but you'll if you pause the video, you can see what I typed in. Again, so pretty much the same shape. And to create a block, a really easy way to create a block is two ways, a couple ways actually, but which actually is a couple, duh. So what you can do is you can highlight your object, type in B. Here you can give your block a name. You can type it, you know, give it a name, whatever you want. Here you can pick your point. Your point is your insertion point. If you don't identify this is where, remember I told you how an object might get thrown way off into the distance, like a mile off the screen, and you're like, well, how come it's doing that? It's because the insertion point was not correctly identified. So that was your point. Now you can select your objects, enter, and it'll keep bringing you back to here. What is that? That is, oh, I think it'll automatically do it for you, but I always do this. You want it to convert to block. Without doing so, it'll just remain single lines, but we're wanting to do this. Basically, you're wanting to, if you choose one line out of the entire drawing, whatever, it chooses all of them for you. Okay, so, and then you can go, okay. Look at that, there you go. So if I choose this line now, it's all one thing. And now if I double click on it, see the BBB is what we named it, we can go okay. And now this is the actual file itself. There's nothing else. You can't do anything to any other part of the drawing because this is technically a separate drawing. This is for some parametric stuff. We're not going to get into that today. Now you can change on the fly. If I wanted to say, we're gonna just draw a circle here, you know, and then say a line from there to there. I don't pretend this is a pool or something. I don't know. So now if you go to close block editor, and again you can change your layers and everything just like you normally could. You might have to go over to home to access them, and if you wanted to change it into that, bam, look, there you go. Now we got layer, and see here, single line. You have to actually choose individual lines now that you're inside the block. So now if you go close block editor, save changes. So now if you choose one, they're all selected. And that's the neat thing about it. So again, the difference between these is if you copy, we're going to select both of them. Turn your ortho back on, and we're going to copy it to right about here, to where if I double click on this, nothing really happens. Or if I just draw a line here and I trim it, that's TR, enter, TR for trim, and I trim it back, and I fillet F here to, that's kind of a neat shape. We'll just leave it like that. It doesn't do it to this object, but if I double click into this object, okay, erase that line, E for erase, and then close the block editor, save the changes, they're both gone. So imagine if you had 100 of these in the drawing. That's how fast it would, and you needed to take one line out of it. I mean, if it's not a block, then you're gonna have to do, if you wanted this to repeat this pattern over here, you would have to recopy it or complete that command over and over and over and over again. So now that we're talking about blocks, like I said, there's another way of inserting a block or creating a block. One thing, if we want to change this into a block really quick, and you don't really care what the name of the block is, because sometimes it doesn't matter, but if you're trying to be disciplined, it can help you, especially if you're trying to find it from another drawing, blah blah blah. But that's usually whenever you create a W block, is saving it out somewhere else. But for what we're doing, we're just going to stick to blocks. A W block is a world block, and it'll actually save the file for you, and that's actually pretty powerful that way. And that's actually W here. It's the same process, except what it does is it saves the file to wherever you tell it to save. And that's how, whenever I entered in that CMU block, the symbol that we did earlier, it actually saved that individual file somewhere, so in the future I can come in and pull it back in. And the neat thing is, if you have that drawing, if you have that symbol on several different drawings, and say your company changes the way they represent something, or if you're in an engineering firm, you go, well, we no longer require on a standard this X part, we no longer require 3 holes, we only require 2. If you that block is in all your other drawings, you change it one time in the source file, and it will change it in every file that it shows up in. That's a pretty powerful way of doing things, of keeping your company up to date. I used to use it a lot, not so much anymore, but at any rate, what we're going to do here, the other way to get a block in without confusing you, if I haven't already, is if you highlight your object like there, and if you Control X, I didn't grab that one, but that's okay. Now if you Control Shift V, Control Shift V inserts your copied object as a block. So again, we're gonna highlight all of our objects. Now if you want to, because what I did is a Control X, that's a cut option. But if I do a Control Shift C, a Control Shift C is copy about a base point. You can do a Control C and it's the same thing, but the base point identifies your insertion point. That's why I always use that one. So Control Shift C, and then you select your point. Now you've copied it, and you haven't erased it. But now you Control Shift V, and Control Shift V is paste as a block about the insertion point. So there. So see how that little dot, that was our base point, or our insertion point that we identified over here. So you can do a Control X and then paste in as a Control Shift V, or there's a Control Shift C for copy. Similar to if you're familiar with Word, you should pick up on that pretty quick. But that's a quick way of creating a block. Now it does not, it gives you some funky name. See right here, some really long whatever. If you don't care, hey, that's the way to go. Again, if you see, this is the last one that I went to insert. So this is, like I said, you can insert. See, here goes there's that one. See, it remembers, so I can insert that for me. If you couldn't remember what it was, it would even give you a little picture of it there to help you out, which is pretty cool. And again, that was the insert command. So we're going to erase these and erase those. We don't really need them. So that was copy and block. So you're starting to get a little more advanced when you're getting into the block stuff. But it really will help you out. Try to embrace that if you're not too familiar or comfortable with it. I promise you, you can do some pretty powerful stuff with a block. I mean, you can even create blocks that interact with other blocks, and that was, if you look into here, your parametric stuff starts coming in. Parametric functions allow, you can lock a point onto another point. That way, if you get out of that, that way, if you moved, if for instance, you could tell this circle, you could say you could actually move this circle down if you chose to set it up correctly. If you had several different options, say if this was a drain hole in a pool or whatever, and that's really big, but if you had an option for, say, here, here, or here, you could set that up and it would give you a menu to be able to say, I want option A, option B, or option C. Or whenever you rotate this, to have this this point fixed about, you know, there's a bunch of different ways that you could really do, and a lot of that is for, at least the industry that I worked in, there was a lot of mechanical aspects, in the sense that moving parts that you wanted locked, like say if your center point of rotation had to always be in this spot, you could rotate an object and it would never move, but everything else would move respectively. So you know, CAD can get as, you know, you can get down deep as that rabbit hole as you want to go, but that's not for today. Alright, let's go to, I'm going to skip break the command and go into nested copy, and then we'll go back into break. The nested copy is you're able to copy an object out of a block without going into the block. So you could say type in NC enter, select, left click your object that you want to copy out, right click, base point, and there, see that's still a block, but you've copied that object out and it retains its properties. That's a cool command that I learned a while back. So, and you can do that with any object in there. So NC enter, I want to copy this inside line, enter, click your base point and move it over, and it's no longer a part of the block. So that's pretty cool, I think. Another way to get into your block is say, well, I need my block in my drawing, but I don't want to have to only look at it because I need to see how it's functioning with the rest of the drawing. For instance, CO, and we're going to copy this guy, say there and there, and see how close that is to that. Well, watch what happens whenever I go into this block. So we're going to type in ref edit, REFED. If it doesn't work for you, you can finish typing the word, and it's IT, ref edit. Enter. Select your block, and that's the BBB block. Go OK. Notice the other two disappeared. It does that with blocks. Whenever all duplicating occurrences of that block disappear, the source object that you're choosing is the only one that shows up. So now if I, you know, I can move it down. Now this is going to be kind of neat when I do this. Watch, the other ones should move down. Actually, let's do the other one so that you can kind of see how it interacts with this one. So we're going to go ref edit, and it should finish it for you. We're going to select this one, and this is how to do it so you can still see everything else. This is kind of my preferred way of doing it. So now, even though you can't see that one, watch what happens when if I move this guy over. Even though I'm moving him, this other guy should move, and you're going to save changes. Okay. See how that moved also? So you got to be careful with messing with blocks. However you modify that is how it's going to, the rest of them are going to get modified accordingly. So that's just a little heads up on that. And that command was ref edit, REFEDIT, ref edit, and that's how you edit your blocks. Without actually, you know, double clicking onto the block itself and going into the actual file. Yeah, just however you want to do it. And break, the break command. That's where I set these guys up. Alright, so break command's kind of cool. It's kind of weird with circles. Hopefully, 'cause sometimes it'll like take away the wrong side of it. But we'll start out with a line and a line. And you go, well, man, I wanna be able to separate these guys. I need it separated. How do I do that? And you know, because if I trim it, it's going to trim this line to here, or this line is going to go to there. You know, so but to create two separate lines about a point, you can go BR for break, You can select there, and your opposite breaking point would be there. And now you have 2 lines. And if you want to extend, I think we might actually skip this one, but the extend command is EX, and you select what you want to extend to. That was a left click. Right click to solidify that selection, and then you select the lines you want to have extended to that point. And so now you have those lines. It's like it never happened, but it split them. So that's the break command. And again, you can BR for break, and you can click there and do there. And if you want to extend, EX, select, and then return or enter, and select that one, and then that one. So now you have 4 lines on there. Yeah, I'm not sure if it'll. Probably the best way here would trim those. I'm not sure. Let's see, it sometimes just acts funny there. See how it did? It left you. It trimmed everything to that point. So that's why I don't like using the break command on circles. For instance, if you wanted to break it to there, to there, to there, to there, probably the best thing to do here would be to trim. That's TR, enter, left click. There you go. So there you go. There is another cool thing to join these. You can join that one to that one. See how now they're when I was telling you can't explode circles. This is one of those instances where you can, because it's 2 separate circle entities joined together. So now you can explode X, and there you go. You're back to kind of where we kind of went in a circle there, but no pun intended. So yeah, there you go. So that was the join command, the trim command, and the break command, kind of right there together. Yeah, so don't get so mentally locked in using one command, like I was trying to use the break command here and it wouldn't work. You know, if it's a command's not working, there's probably another command meant that would be better. You know, familiarity and comfortability with using something a certain way, especially in CAD, can be your worst enemy. Always explore different ways of trying to approach something. Yeah, your angle of attack should be different for different scenarios, and that's why we're going over as many of these commands as we can. And we're almost done, actually. So that was nested copy. We've already done move. So if, again, M for move, M, enter. That's a left click, and then I enter, and then left click to move. I know it's a lot of left click, right click, enter. But as soon as you start moving stuff and it's selecting, and you actually getting your hands in the computer here, and you just actually key stroking this stuff in, you'll get a better feel for what I mean. So again, it's move. That's M, enter, left click as you're selecting it, or actually you can use your pick box there, and then right click or enter, either one, and then left click to initiate the action. So there you go. That was move. Match properties. This is pretty cool. I don't know if we've done this one yet. So if we explode, that's X for explode. If I wanted to match this, like say if I want basically match properties matching your color and your layer. It does it all in one fell swoop for you. So you can go M, A, enter, left click your source object, and then left click your destination or your object that you want changed. So now this object and this object have the same layer, whereas before they had the 0 layer. So if you undo do it again, see now it has 0 layer. That's what it was before. So it's M, A, M, and you can go M, A, enter. You can choose that one and that one. And as a side note, say if we remember we hatched earlier, if we type in BH and we hatch, that just happened to be the last hatch that we chose. And then say if I hatch again, separate command, if I'd have continued, it would have been one long hatch. That's why I got out of it and went back into it. And I'll show you what I mean. So BH, enter there, and if I choose again, it's all considered one hatch. See how it's highlighted there? So I didn't want to do that, so it's BH, enter, hatch, escape a couple times, again, BH, enter. Now if I wanted this one to be, say, that one, so, and I escaped out of that, and I say I wanted this to be that color. We go, man, how do I get this to that? Well, the cool thing about a hatch is it's associative and it can change, so you can, it says MA for match properties, click your source object and then your other object, and it changes it. Now there's still two separate hatches, but they look like they've merged together. So real neat way of doing match properties. And that's a match properties with a hatch pattern is a really powerful thing as well. Alright, mirror command. That's a cool one. So if I wanted to mirror this object right here about any axis, really, I can type in MI, enter, left click, your crossing window going across, or you could do it, you know, your left click in your crossing window, but it has to cover every piece of it. That's why you always see me usually go left to right to left, because it's just, you don't have to encompass as much. So now we've got that selected. Now we're going to right click and then select your origin point and see how it's mirroring it, and then left click again, then enter, and look at there, it copied it as a polyline. So that's pretty cool. So if I wanted to mirror both of these, if I wanted to, see how it's automatically starting to look like something. So remove, gonna highlight those, move them down. It's already looking like somewhat of a legitimate shape. If you notice here, it's not together, but you can use your fillet command to fill those in if you're following along with me or whatever. But let's say a neat little command here with to go back to the move command, M, enter here, yeah, and then and then say we did a couple commands, blah 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 blah, and you go, well, man, or you did something, and like say this was 100 lines, and you didn't feel like having to select each and every line, because that can be an issue. One thing you can type in is move, enter, P for previous, enter, and see how that highlighted? I didn't have to do anything. It automatically did that for me. And right click, and there. That was move previous. The neat thing about that, you can use move previous, I think erase previous, rotate previous, trim, not trim, previous. There's a lot of previous commands you can add in as a sub command into your other command, similar to the fence command. I call those sub commands because it's like a parent command and then a child command. That might be a better way of saying it. But anyway, so yeah, you can try to previous stuff a lot. I think it should help you out instead of having to reselect a bunch of stuff. As mirror. We already went over the text thing. That's another way of doing it is MT. We just did T earlier, but see T. See, it's the first one on the line is M text. Another way to do it is MT. It's the same thing. There's duplicate commands essentially. And then the last one I think we're going to go over today is multi-lines. That's ML. And so here you're going to go to justification. And what a multi-line is you're drawing a single line, but you can draw multiple lines at one time. So for instance, we're going to do justification J. We say we want the top line to be the controlling line, and I'm going off of here. See, top scale. Let's see your scale, and we want that to be at say 3. I think that means 3 inches apart, I think, if I'm correct. So now what you can do is you can click here. See how it's drawing 2 lines at one time, and it looks like you can draw a house really quick like this. There, 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 there. If we come up, watch this here, and if you remember that close command, C, enter, how it did it for you. And that's a polyline, both of them together. So can you trim this? I'm not sure if you can. Offset, there, erase, trim. Yep. See, now we got our door. There you go. So pretty cool thing there. I did it 3, but a typical 2x4 is 3.5. The 2x6 is 5.5. But 3 inches, you get the idea. You can draw you some walls really quick that way without having to do a bunch of offsets and whatnot. Alright guys, well that's about it, and you should be able to get up and running on drawing a lot of stuff. I know that was really lengthy, but if, thanks for staying there with me. If you were able to get through all of this, hopefully this helped you out. If it did, please let me know. If there's something that you would like to see in the future, let me know. Give me a thumbs up. Put it in the comments below if there's something that you want to see or whatnot, and I'll try to incorporate that into any future installments. And or if there's something you'd be like, hey man, just to let you know, this is I've learned this. I'm always up for tips and pointers of how to do stuff. I mean, I'm even though I do not want to think or even imagine that I know most of it or all of it as far as CAD goes. I mean, again, this was a basic introduction to how to get going in CAD, and I know that's usually where people stumble, is that it's a pretty daunting task to get into CAD, and that's why we went over the keystroke commands. If you noticed, I really didn't do too many button pushing. I didn't do a lot of button pushing. I mean, we went into the home tab, which gave you a bunch of this stuff in here, and but I mean, and I think I used the dimension thing, but even still, you have dim linear, you saw there, and then that one was the angled dimension was dim aligned, stuff like that. And this is actually, if you right click on any of you can actually install any particular button thing if you're wanting to use buttons in a certain capacity, which I do in for the dimensions. Really, pretty much is the only dimension thing. Now your 3D stuff, I use my buttons a lot, but or some anyway. If I want to insert, you see how it just popped up here. You can pop it. You can bring it in and drop it in. If I want to do that, I could put it right there. I know it's might be hard. At least it's hard to see on my screen. I think my ratio is off, but and then you can just delete it. So that's how you get those. You can mess with which ones you want to keep or not have or whatever. But again, thanks for watching. Let me know what you thought, and hopefully we'll do it again next time. Thanks.